Namibia is located in southern Africa and is famous for its striking red sand dunes and the abundant Etosha National Park. This region is one of the most mysterious and untouched areas of Africa, home to many dangerous predators and reptiles. Today, Ed Stafford will have to survive alone here for 7 days. Let's see how he overcomes this tough challenge. After landing from the program's plane, Ed continued his journey by car to the survival location for this challenge. As soon as he got out of the car, Ed quickly took off his shirt, shoes, and socks. His gear remained the same: 4 essential items: a camera, a satellite phone, an emergency survival kit, and a drone for aerial footage. The first priority when surviving in the scorching desert is to find a water source. The intense heat of the day made the ground feel like it was burning Ed's feet. Ed hurriedly pushed through the dense bushland. But this was an extremely dangerous move. In the worst-case scenario, if a rhinoceros suddenly charged at him, it could send him flying into the air. Suddenly, his eyes caught sight of a dark shadow about 100 meters away. He focused intently, trying to make out what it was. Turns out, it was just an antelope. But right beside it was a rhinoceros. Weighing between 800 and 1,400 kilograms, it would be anything but wise to confront such a massive beast. The scorching heat of Namibia forced him to move faster. He needed to find shade before he got roasted alive. The temperature outside had soared to a blistering 44 degrees Celsius, much hotter than most places people live. Ed's skin was sunburned and peeling. If he couldn't find shade and water soon, surviving for 7 days would be out of the question. After more than 3 hours of struggle, he finally found a cool cave. Even better, he discovered some leftover scraps from a leopard's meal. Ed decided to use a piece of the hide to craft himself a pair of makeshift shoes, helping to protect his feet and making exploration much easier. Now it's time to rest a bit and plan for this survival journey. After 30 minutes of rest and planning, Ed started making a pair of shoes from animal hide. As expected, they were much softer and more comfortable. Before coming here, Ed had learned survival skills from the people of Namibia. If you ever come across a plant that looks like grass roots, never ignore it. Simply dig it up, and you might find something resembling a coconut. Using a rock to crack it open, you can squeeze the inner flesh to extract life-saving water. Moreover, the flesh itself is edible, tasting somewhat like raw potatoes. After replenishing some energy, Ed began working on his leather shoes. He picked up 2 stones and smashed them together, creating sharp-edged fragments that could be used as cutting tools for the animal hide. He carefully measured the exact size and then used the sharp stone to cut the leather piece by piece. After 2 hours of effort, Ed successfully crafted a pair of animal hide shoes. Tonight, Ed will spend the night here, marking the end of a fairly successful first day of survival. See you all on the morning of day 2. Early the next morning, Ed skipped breakfast and took advantage of the cooler temperatures before the sun rose too high. He quickly set off in search of a water source. He hadn't gone far when Ed spotted antelope droppings on the ground. Even more exciting, just ahead of him, 2 antelopes were leisurely strolling and foraging for their morning meal. But the most important thing right now is to find a fresh water source as soon as possible. Relying on his years of experience in the wild, Ed begins analyzing the situation. If antelopes are present here, then there must be a water source nearby. Following the tracks left by the antelopes, Ed spots a flock of birds and signs of insect activity. Nearby, 2 pigeons suddenly fly out of a strange hole. As he moves closer to take a better look, he realizes it really is the long-awaited water source. However, the water is filled with dense mosquito eggs. At the moment, Ed doesn't have a truly effective way to purify it. But with his thirst reaching its limit, he takes the risk and drinks anyway. Scooping up the water with his hands, he gulps it down without hesitation. Quenching his thirst instantly lifts his spirits, making him feel much better. Next, Ed prepares to find a nearby cave to set up a long-term campsite. Ed finds a perfectly sized cave on the cliffside. As he approaches, he feels a warm sense of comfort, almost like being at home. On the cliffside, he discovers ancient remnants left behind by the local people. The shelter was secured, and the next task was to create fire. The greatest advantage of this place was its dry climate. Ed began crafting a fire-starting tool, then continuously rubbed it against the ground until smoke appeared. Carefully, he placed a handful of dry grass on top and blew gently. In just a moment, a small flame ignited. Success! Finally, he had created fire, the most essential element for survival. After that, he took a walk to survey the terrain. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his foot. Thinking he had stepped on a thorn, he looked down, only to realize it was a sour apple. Looking up, he saw a sour apple tree above him, its branches heavy with ripe fruit. Overjoyed, Ed grabbed as many as he could and quickly took a big bite, savoring the refreshing taste. After filling his stomach, he wrapped up some apples to take back to camp. Exhausted from 2 days of survival, Ed returned to his shelter and immediately collapsed into sleep, marking the end of his second day in the wild. The third day had arrived. Early in the morning, Ed went to the water hole, took a sip of water, and began his journey for the day. This place is rich in wildlife, but if Ed wants to catch anything, he needs to make a trap. He sets off to find materials to start making the trap. Not long after, Ed discovers a patch of snake plant bushes on the ground. With its abundant fibers, this plant is a perfect material for crafting a trap. Ed successfully crafts a sturdy rope from the snake plant fibers. Now, with this essential tool in hand, he's ready to build the trap. The mechanism is quite simple. As soon as an unlucky animal comes to take the bait, the rock above will fall and crush it. Right at that moment, Ed luckily caught a small lizard while it was sleeping. Without any hesitation, he popped it straight into his mouth, replenishing some much-needed protein and energy. Now it's time to find the perfect spot to set the trap. Ed decides to place it near the cliffside. While preparing the trap, he notices a small mouse nearby staring at him. Hopefully, it won't go and tell anyone about the trap. The sky is gradually darkening, and Ed hopes that by tomorrow, a prey will be caught in the trap. For now, good night, everyone. It's now the fourth day. Early in the morning, Ed, feeling both anxious and excited, went to check his trap. From a distance, he could see that it had been triggered. His heart filled with anticipation as he approached, and sure enough, an unlucky prey had been caught. He was overjoyed because, after days of scarce food, he could finally enjoy a feast of fresh meat. After removing the inedible parts, Ed skewered the organs into small strips and roasted them over the fire. 15 minutes later, the delicious grilled meat was ready. As he ate, he felt emotional. After days of hunger, he could finally have a full meal. The taste was absolutely incredible. After finishing the organ meat, Ed still felt extremely hungry. So, he placed the whole rabbit over the fire to roast. An hour later, he enjoyed another delicious meal. Taking a big bite, the juices dripped down his mouth, and the crispy outer layer crunched delightfully. After eating his fill, Ed set out once again to explore the wilderness. While wandering, he discovered a bone left behind by a predator. Smelling its freshness, he noticed the tendons still clinging to it, an excellent material for making a strong and durable cord. Next, Ed sharpened a branch to make a bow and then held it over the fire. This process would enhance its durability and flexibility. Then, he continued to tear the tendons from the bone, using a stone to slice them into thin strips before twisting them into a sturdy bowstring. After spending the entire day working on it, Ed finally crafted a masterpiece of a bow. Now that night has fallen, Ed plans to craft arrows tomorrow. For now, it's time to rest. Time flies, and it's already the fifth day. The first thing Ed does after waking up is check his trap. On the way, he notices multiple hyena tracks. Turning around, he sees them lurking about 100 meters away, but it seems they don't dare to attack him. Ed walks over to check the trap, but this time, there's no prey caught in it. He decides to take a sip of water to quench his thirst before searching for food for the day. Before starting to make arrows, he wanted to see if any animals came to drink water here, so he set up a tracking camera nearby. The next task was to make arrows. First, he snapped off a fairly straight branch from a tree to serve as the arrow shaft. Continuing his search for materials, he unexpectedly found a cluster of chicken feathers, an excellent material for making arrow fletching. After returning to camp, Ed began sanding the branch with sand to smooth its surface. Then, he placed it over the fire, waiting for it to soften before carefully straightening it. Since he didn't have suitable materials for an arrowhead yet, he could only sharpen one end of the branch to make it pointed. Finally, he tied the chicken feathers to the other end for stability. Now it was time to go hunting. With his new equipment, Ed was eager to test the effectiveness of his bow. He quickly fired 2 arrows in succession. Both were stable and had impressive accuracy. On his way back to camp, Ed came across a breathtaking view of the natural landscape. The sunset here was enough to soothe his soul. He quickly stood atop a high point, admiring the wonders of nature, before heading back to camp and enjoying a deep, restful sleep. It was now the 6th day. Ed woke up early, grabbed his bow and arrows, and set off for a hunt. But first, he needed to find materials to make a quiver to store his arrows. After a few hours of searching, he finally found the right material. Ed quickly hollowed out the inside of a tree trunk and used animal hide to seal one end. And just like that, his quiver was complete. Ed set out for the water hole to check the footage. As he played the video, he saw 2 antelopes coming to drink. With this new information, he decided to stay and wait patiently for the perfect hunting opportunity. But night after night, he was surprised to see nothing appear. Still, Ed was certain that his choice was right. Now, it was time to get some rest and recharge his energy. Early in the morning of the 7th day, Ed noticed a guinea pig wandering nearby. So, he went to its hiding place and waited there until nightfall. Just a few minutes after the sun set, Ed spotted the silhouette of a wild chicken. He took aim, drew his bow, and fired an arrow. The chicken seemed quite large. This reward was truly worth all the patience and effort he had put in. After returning to the camp, Ed quickly started a fire and prepared the roasted chicken. In just 20 minutes, the delicious, hot, fire-roasted chicken was ready to be served. The crispy, fragrant skin and the sweet, juicy meat made this meal a true delight. Compared to the previous days, today felt like heaven. Having eaten well and drunk enough, Ed lay down for a good night's sleep, ending the 7th day of survival successfully and perfectly. Early on the 8th morning, Ed packed up his belongings and set off for the rendezvous point, successfully concluding this survival challenge.